Happy Mardi Gras!
Hello and welcome to our third episode of Crystal Cast Mardi Gras Special. My name is Ross, I'm an immigration lawyer and I'm here with Juan Silva.
Hello everyone, very happy to be here with us, celebrating Mardi Gras and speaking about interesting things today.
Exactly, we've got quite a lot to cover today. We've got our news. Our topic of the week this week is Mardi Gras. We're going to talk about the history, how it tied to immigration as well. And when I was doing a bit of research for this particular episode, it surprised me with some of the facts in terms of just how recent some of the events were. So I am looking forward to covering these with you today.
I know, absolutely.
And would also like to thank our sponsors who support us throughout these episodes. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do this on a weekly basis and bring these episodes to you free of charge. I'd like to thank Reese Brace from Migration Insurance Brokers.
Yeah, and we'll also like to thank Paul Wilcox from Oasis King Real Estate, as well as Jennifer from 1 to 3 Accounting.
And last but not least, Darian Chai from Strategic Brokers. And now on to our news for the week. We've got quite a bit to cover today, Juan.
Yeah, so we're starting with the ACT is going to have another round of invitation in March. And we have to bear in mind that there are only 200 allocations left. So it's good that all of those aspirants get everything ready and see if they are the lucky ones.
Yes, exactly. And also, just in relation to Fair Work Australia and Fair Work Ombudsman, they've been releasing quite a bit of information about the changes in the unpaid leave and work entitlements. Now, one of the things that's been changed or is being legislated is in relation to the leave and whether it can be carried over to a new employer. So say, for example, if the business went through a restructure, would it be possible for employees to to carry over the leave to the new employer? And it looks at this stage like the answer is going to be yes. And there's also just some of the rules around standing down period. So that may impact visa applications that you're going to lodge when it comes to, say, the temporary residence transition stream. So it's a really important piece of legislation.
100% Ross. On another news, we have the review of the significant threshold when speaking about the health. So they are making having conversations about raising the threshold and abolishing Big 4005.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Juan, because the threshold currently sits at 51,000 and it's fairly low when you think about it, because you do need to measure it over 5 or 10 years depending on the condition. So when we look at, say, countries like New Zealand, which is almost 90,000, we are just a little bit behind. And I suppose the abolition of PIC 4005 is something that's been discussed in previous discussion papers. And now that there is a discussion paper out, now I do encourage everyone to put in a submission. You can be an RMA, a lawyer, or an individual as well. I think this is really important because we come across health waivers quite often.
Yeah, very, very often. And yeah, it's important to have all of this in mind and see how this is going to affect those applications.
Yeah, exactly. And onto modern awards as well. There is another discussion paper by Fair Work Ombudsman, and that's going to be in relation to how the modern awards are structured. So for those who may not know what a modern award is, it essentially governs a particular industry, so hospitality, for example, hair and beauty award, and it sets out minimum standards. So this consultation is meant to invite stakeholders just to ensure that, the businesses understand the terms and conditions of particular awards and they can implement them. There's not much of a point in having an award if it doesn't fit in within what the businesses do. So again, I do encourage business owners and also individuals to put in submissions where possible. There's more information available on Fair Work Ombudsman website.
And for the question of the week, we have the following about work experience and times. And let's see how we can answer this, Ross.
Yes.
So what is the definition of equivalent part-time in contrast to XYZ years of full-time experience?
Yeah, it's a good question because I suppose it depends also on what you're using it for, whether you're counting part-time equivalent for visa applications or skills assessment. So I suppose I'll answer it in two parts.
Mm.
Um, Part-time equivalent means, I suppose, having that experience prorated over a number of years. So if you're doing 2 years of experience as part-time, that would be 1 year of full-time equivalent work. But where you need to be a little bit careful is, let's say, skills assessment bodies, they might specify how many hours need to be part-time and how many hours need to be full-time. So the ratio might change a little bit.
All right. And there is a second bit of this question. Is casual experience counted as equivalent part-time or full-time? I believe the answer to this, Ross, is either, because what is the definition of full-time? They say at least 35 hours,
Yeah.
and as opposed to part-time to be 20 hours. Now, if someone is working casually but consistently working those 20 hours or 35 hours, and this can be proved by the pay slips, bank transfers, they can be counted for the work experience requirement.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like you said, it depends on what sort of casual work it is.
Mm.
If it's consistent, then you just sort of average the number of hours. Where concerns arise is, let's say, if you've got someone working 4 hours and then they do
Yeah.
20 hours, it's a little bit difficult to average how many hours per week you do.
So the key here is consistency.
100%. So in short, I know we went about it the long way, but in short, it can be counted. And in terms of pro rata, you just need to understand what it is that you're looking at, whether it's a visa application or a skills assessment body. And if you do want to send in your question of the week, please contact us using the QR code below to submit your question. And our best question or the most random question, depending on the category, will win a cash prize of $300. So, topic of the week, Mardi Gras. Well, happy Mardi Gras, Juan.
Happy Mardi Gras, Ross.
Thank you. Do you know, I was doing research, as I mentioned earlier. Do you know what Mardi Gras stands for?
I've never
So
heard
you've
of
got Mardi, which is French for Tuesday, and Gras, which means fat. So Fat Tuesday.
it. Oh.
Um, because, well, the initial origin of the term is actually sort of a feast or a celebration. So there, hence the term Mardi Gras. But then, depending on the context, it was adapted over the years to suit, I suppose, the occasion. But yes, we're celebrating Fat Tuesday.
Oh, Fat Tuesday it is.
Fat Tuesday it is, yes.
So yes, we're celebrating this beautiful Sydney Mardi Gras in this season, in this month. And just to speak a little bit about Mardi Gras, it started on the 24th of June in 1978. And it was a little bit of a celebration slash protest.
Yeah, it's it didn't start off as what we see today when you've got, families, you've got people from overseas. 500,000 people are going to watch the
I
parade.
know. Yeah.
But it certainly didn't start like that.
Exactly. So it is a big achievement. And look, it like I said, it started like a protest and celebration because they were fighting for the decriminalization of homosexuality here in Australia.
Yeah.
And also they were protesting against homophobic views and festivals that were going on at that time, and they were out and about just saying, raising their voices against all of this. But also there was a little bit of celebration. They were commemorating the Stonewall uprising in New York.
Yeah, exactly. And back then, when it came to employment, when it came to housing, being gay was just not an option. There were laws against that. And what's a little bit sad, I suppose, about the 1978 event, there was around 40 people that were arrested, and their names were published in a newspaper. So they were outed to their work colleagues. I think in 2024, the term coming out isn't used as often as it used to be, but back then it was a big deal. So, it's a personal decision to announce whether you're gay or not. and yes, their names were just published in the national newsletter.
Wow, yeah. And look, we've come a very long way.
We certainly have,
Now,
yes.
what you see in the newsletters or in the news is just people celebrating,
Yes.
dancing, going in the floats, and I think it's wonderful. There is so much to say, so much to celebrate, and in the aspects of migration, it speaks about how welcoming Australia is, and everyone can be free and can be themselves. So. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, definitely. What are you looking forward to the most in the Mardi Gras celebrations one?
Well, actually, the celebration or the anniversary of my relationship.
Congratulations.
Thank you, because that actually marks the anniversary, the day when I met my partner. It was actually in a Mardi Gras in a Mardi Gras celebration.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, the first time I ever went to an event like this, and I happened to find the one.
Well, there you
So it
go.
was really good, yeah.
Excellent. It's going to be an amazing event, and there's also events all around Sydney as well. You know, there was a Mardi Gras film event. You've got the parade that's coming up on Saturday. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I know now it's sort of fairly common to see it on TV, but that wasn't. That's only a recent event. It used to be on television about 10 years ago. It was taken down, and now it's come back, and you can either watch it live or you can watch sort of the cut broadcast the following day. So it certainly is exciting. But from an immigration perspective, when I started back in 2009, we actually did a partner visa for this couple, same-sex couple, and they were one of the first ones that we've put through when the definition of spouse-like relationship
Wow.
changed from man and woman to two people. And if you actually go into some of the legislation, it still refers to as man and woman. You know, 15 years later. But I think the case officers understand that that's sort of well, not a mistake, but just an update that wasn't done properly. So, but it is interesting that even in the time that I've started, I don't think I've been that long in the profession. It was you still weren't able to file certain applications. You weren't able to file 457 visas and have a same-sex spouse. And yeah, this is talking about in our lifetime.
Yeah.
So it is amazing how much has changed in the last 15 years or so.
Absolutely, Ross. That's really good. And just speaking about my own experience, um, as a gay, I felt in Australia that I could have this opportunity to live with my partner. And in fact, I applied for a partner visa, being sponsored by my male partner. And that was really good. And for me, like back in my home country, we still have to come a long way in comparison to Australia. So the fact that I could migrate here without an issue, without a problem, being welcome, without that discrimination that was before, it changed my life, because here I am with all of you, being able to call this country my home.
Exactly,
And
and being able to talk about such an important topic.
yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, and it's wonderful that you're able to, apply for a partner visa. But in your home country, Venezuela, what would it be like if you were to say, is it possible to apply for a partner visa with a same-sex partner? How does it work?
At this time, not possible yet, Ross, unfortunately. There is no recognition for same-sex couples or marriages.
Mm.
It is not legal yet. So if that's not done yet, in the immigration perspective, there is no hope at all.
Yeah.
So my relationship wouldn't be recognized in that. So yeah, it's still a little bit a long way to run for Venezuela. I think the debate is up there in the parliament and the
Yeah.
assembly, but it hasn't come yet. It hasn't come forth yet. So
Yeah, I mean, it is a slow change. When it came to recognition of marriage in Australia, that took a long time as well. I've been here for 25 years, and for as long as I can remember, there was the debate that was going on, and depending what party was in power, they wanted to have it legislated. Then it went to plebiscite. They didn't want to hold a referendum because most referendums fail in Australia. That's just sort of a historical fact. And then the overwhelming majority have voted yes in favour of marriage, and that really sort of changed the landscape of immigration as well, because the reason why the de facto definition changed in the regulations was to allow to include same-sex couples, because prior to the recognition of same-sex marriage, it was quite difficult because you'd have say a couple coming from the UK where same-sex marriage is legal. You would have to say to them, well, we can't put you down as married, we have to put you down as a de facto, and you have to provide evidence of cohabitation. It is borderline offensive to the couple. I mean, most of my clients were very understanding, but it's just something that, if you're married, you shouldn't have to go back a step. Not that I'm saying being a de facto is a step backwards, but marriage, people don't take that lightly. So to say that we don't recognise the commitment that you've entered into, I do think that it would probably hurt the couple a little bit.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
And just on the topic, we've talked about how lucky we're here, and I wanted to discuss protection visas.
Yeah.
Protection visas and belonging to a social group. So what would it, let's say for example, if you're applying for a protection visa on the basis that you are gay or lesbian or bisexual, how would that go? What would the department look at?
Well, in this case, Ross, the department would look at the person being targeted because of this trait of this person.
Yeah.
If they are being prosecuted because of their sexual orientation,
Yeah.
that's when the Department of Home Affairs is going to consider implementing the protection obligations, but not just because a person is gay.
Yeah.
Is a reason for them to apply for protection.
And Juan, since we're on the topic of same-sex relationships as well, I suppose that's where the question of protection visas come into play as well, and whether one could argue that they would qualify for a protection visa. How would that work if someone identifies themselves as gay or lesbian or bisexual? How would they have an avenue to apply for a protection visa?
In this case, Ross, we have to consider that just the fact that a person is gay or bisexual or has a different sexual orientation, that fact by itself wouldn't constitute in grounds for protection. The person would have to be targeted in their home country because they're gay. There has to be the element of fear of persecution because of belonging to this group, and also we'll have to see if Australia has the international obligations for protection.
Yeah.
So we have to consider all these elements. If the person is gay or not gay, whoever is having those fears of persecutions, and
and I think the other important element as well, and this is where I see a lot of protection visas get refused. In addition to well-founded fear of persecution and our international obligations, one of the other criteria is whether it's possible for someone to relocate to a nearby country as well, because the way that Australia sees the term refugee is someone who's fleeing from their home country, but they should also, under the law, look for other countries as well. So maybe like a nearby country. And that's where a lot of protection visas, unfortunately, do fail because there's just inadequate information as to where else the person has sought refuge. And because we are sort of geographically isolated from the rest of the world, that criteria is a little bit difficult to meet. So let's say, for example, if we were to talk about Venezuela, the Department of Immigration probably also look at, well, what neighbouring countries did you look at as opposed to crossing the entire world to Australia. And I think that's where there'll be sort of a major issue in terms of the visa being granted.
Absolutely. But in saying that, Ross, there are a lot of cases of people that come to Australia by themselves,
Yeah,
and then they meet their partner here in Australia,
yeah,
and maybe not thinking about a refugee visa or a protection visa, or maybe yes, because there could be the case that if they go back with their partner to their home countries, they're not going to be able to have a life the way they would here in Australia. So what about those cases?
yeah. It's interesting that you brought that up as well because I agree with you. I don't think that everyone comes to Australia and thinks straight away I'll apply for a protection visa. I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak on my experience, of course. But we've had situations where, you know, client circumstances would change and they would either meet someone or maybe because they became more, I suppose, entrenched in sort of the culture, the gay and lesbian culture, it outed them to their family and then they were no longer welcome back at home. And I could think of a specific example of a case where that has happened and the circumstances have changed, so they were no longer welcome back at home. And in fact, you know, the family has received a number of threats. So, you know, when you think that family is receiving threats, you can only imagine what's going to happen with that particular individual if they were to go back to their home country. So I completely agree with you. You know, circumstances change. It's just with protection visas, it has a very low approval rating when you look at it by comparison to other visas. That's why if you are a member of the LGBTQI community, it's important to not just straight away think protection visa. I really do think it should be at the bottom of the list. But there's also, you know, skilled migration, there's family migration, and really those should be the options explored first and foremost.
100%. And in the middle of these celebrations and happy times, we would like to acknowledge what happened to this beautiful couple, Jessie Bird and Luke Davis. I think nobody deserves to have an ending of their life like that.
Yeah, definitely. And our thoughts are with their families at this difficult moment. Now, Juan, I know that we always like to keep it light, so this week I thought let's do a little bit of a quiz or a game. So I'll explain to you how this one works. We're going to keep it on the topic of migration, but you can't use the letters C and S. Yeah, good luck, mate. May the best player win. So I'll start off. Immigration.
Visa.
That is an S.
Oh, but it's V.
Needs to start with S.
Ah,
You should have left it. Like it's fun when.
Yeah, I'm letting.
Okay.
I
Okay.
know. Application.
Give me account.
Vivo check.
Oh my god. Work rights.
Protection visa.
Now we're gonna go to all the visas. 186 visa.
Administrative Appeals Tribunal.
Federal Circuit Court.
Home Affairs.
Submission.
Well, I think that's all that we've got time for.
Thank you.